Turning Red told us about the bizarre blessing of the Lee family, and though it's easy to be swept up in the fuzzy adorableness of the red panda,
I'll never not be your ride or die. Alright!
the story is really about mothers, daughters, and dealing with generational trauma. But it's also about the red pandas.
Sorry! I'll never be like you!
In this video, we're going to unpack our theories surrounding the red panda blessing and find out why the Lee family ever wanted to separate themselves from their fuzzy spirits in the first place.
Did the red peony bloom?
No! Maybe?
2022's Turning Red didn't really take the world by storm. In fact, it ranked first on the number's biggest money losers based on absolute loss on worldwide earnings list, which isn't exactly something to brag about, especially for a Disney Pixar film. Its critical reception was okay, but that was it. Beyond some media buzz early on, thanks to concerns surrounding the mention of gasp sanitary pads, Turning Red didn't turn many heads. However, despite a lackluster box office turnout and unremarkable critical reception, Turning Red is still a perfectly good movie.
She dedicated her life to the creatures of the forest, especially the red panda.
The performances are sound, the visuals are pleasing to the eye, and the story is rife with potential. And well, where there's an interesting concept, there's usually an even more interesting theory, and boy howdy have we got one for you. Ever wonder why Mei's family wanted to separate from the red pandas?
My whole life I've been her perfect little Mei Mei. Temple duties, grades, violin,
Tap dancing.
yeah.
Before we can really get into the why of it all, it would help to establish a rough timeline to get an idea of when the practice of separating from the red panda spirits and sealing it away even began. The movie gives us some details to get us started. In the introductory sequence of the temple, Ming tells the gathered family that the Lee family temple is one of the oldest in Toronto. Though it's never explicitly stated, we can assume from the design of the temple and the practices shown to us that the Lee family are Chinese Buddhists. The actual oldest Chinese Buddhist temple in Toronto is the Cham Shan Buddhist Temple, which was established in 1973. Considering that Turning Red is set in 2002, that means that the Lee family temple is at most 29 years old.
Our family runs one of the oldest temples in Toronto.
Mei, our main character, is stated to be 13 during the events in the film. Based on this, we can safely assume that Ming, Mei's mother, is a little older than 29. However, we know that Ming's big fight with her mother occurred in the temple, as Jin, Mei's father, tells us that Ming nearly took down half the temple during the fight while in her red panda form. In one of the final scenes of the film, Mei re-enters the astral realm with her mother, aunts, and grandmother. She first appears alone in the bamboo forest until she hears distant cries. The source of the cries is revealed to be a young Ming, reeling from the aftermath of the fight with her mother. We'll go into why Ming reverted to her younger self in a little while, but what's important to establishing our timeline is that young Ming was dressed in what looks to be like a school uniform.
Mom? I'm sorry. It's all my fault.
We know that Mei is considered young for the transformation. Ming and Jin say so themselves when they find out that she's awakened her red panda. The film doesn't tell us what the average age is, but based on the fact that young Ming still appears to be in school and considering that the whole transformation is an analog for puberty, we can assume that members of the Lee family typically awaken the red panda in their teenage years. If Ming sealed away her red panda on the first blood moon following its awakening, that means she had to have been a teenager when the big fight with her mother took place. This tells us that the temple already existed back when Ming was a teenager, so she couldn't have been its founder. It's likely that her mother, Mei's grandmother, was.
I see you, Mei Mei. You try to make everyone happy, but are so hard on yourself.
It's not uncommon for immigrants to want to establish a place to honor their culture and heritage. Considering Mei's grandmother is very traditional, it's likely that she is the one who moved the Lee's family to Canada, or that her own parents did when she was a child, and established the Lee family temple. When Ming tells Mei the origin of the Red Panda blessing, she mentions that their family's move to the New World made the blessing more of an inconvenience. They didn't need to defend themselves from bandits anymore. They didn't need the Red Panda anymore. If Mei's grandmother was the first of their family to experience awakening her Red Panda in the New World, then she was the one who saw it as more of an inconvenience than a blessing. Following that logic, she was likely the first one that chose to separate from her Red Panda.
Sun Yi, give me strength.
The shaman that conducts Mei's ritual tells us that he has 50 years of experience. Considering his general lack of nerves surrounding the separation ceremony, it's probable that he performed that same ceremony for Ming and her sisters. And it's even possible that he was the one to perform the very first ceremony for Mei's grandmother when she first came of age. Based on all the information we've discussed, we can conclude, for the sake of this theory, that Mei's grandmother began the practice of sealing away the Red Panda spirit. So what do we do with that information?
I found this. Strange for a girl who hasn't let her panda out.
Okay, so Mei's grandmother is the first of their family to awaken the Red Panda spirit in Canada. Why would she want to seal it away? If we look at the history of immigration to the Western world, the pursuit of blending in is a clear trend throughout the generations. People want to be accepted. They want their children to be accepted. And through the acceptance, they want to prosper in this new land filled with opportunities. Too often, that means letting go of their own culture to fully embrace the culture of their new home. Ethics of assimilation aside, it's entirely possible that Grandma Lee saw the Red Panda spirit as yet another roadblock to her acceptance into the new world her family now found themselves in.
The important thing is you tried. You spelled your little butt off. First place in our hearts!
If the ancestor worship of the temple is anything to go by, it's clear that she revered her elders, and based on how the legend of the Red Panda blessing is passed down, even the term blessing tells us that she has a deep respect for her lineage and all that comes with it. There is, however, a line between respecting your ancestors and wanting to turn it into a giant panda every time you get emotional. The Red Panda spirit was something that tied Grandma Lee to her family, but it's also something that separated her from the people of her new home. It made her different. It added to the feeling of otherness that immigrants and children of immigrants are already so likely to feel. So, when the blood moon rose after Grandma Lee had awakened her red spirit, she entered the astral realm and asked ancestor Sun Yi to separate her from her red panda. And when the time came for her daughters to come of age, she had them do the same.
What's happening to me?
What is it? What? It's happened already?
Of course, there are other reasons to consider beyond the burden of assimilation. Ming tells Mei that the Red Panda spirit has a darkness to it, and though we don't quite believe that, this does ring true in a sense. The Red Panda seems to enhance the emotions of its host. In her fuzzy form, Mei is quicker to anger, quicker to tears, and more easily overwhelmed by her emotions as a whole. The Red Panda seems to enhance the emotions of its host. In her fuzzy form, Mei is quicker to anger, quicker to tears, and more easily overwhelmed by her emotions as a whole. The Red Panda spirit and its physical manifestation heightens the emotions of its host, and that can be a dangerous thing when paired with the frame of a large bear. Think about real-life bears for a second. The teddy bear.
Everyone, go home! Where are your parents? Put some clothes on!
The quintessential emotional support item of a majority of human babies is inspired by the large, furry creatures that roam the wild, just living their best lives. We don't think anyone would protest against cuddling a teddy, but put them near a real bear and they'd sooner set a new speed record for climbing up a tree than go up to it and give it a hug. It is friend-shaped, but it is not friend. In plainer terms, bears are killing machines. They're huge, they're strong, and they're really scary. Actually, red pandas average about 23 inches and 15 pounds. But the Lee family pandas appear to rival actual bears instead. Personally, we wouldn't want to combine the build of a bear with the emotional regulation of a hormonal teenager either. Despite the fact that members of the Lee family retain consciousness when they take on their red panda forms, the possibility of snapping and hurting someone is a big burden to bear.
Things at the temple have never been better.
One that Ming, with her kaiju-esque stature, is super conscious of, especially considering that snapping and hurting someone is exactly what she did. A lot of online discourse surrounding the film focuses on Ming's warning to Mei about the red panda and the challenges concerning the ceremony as a plot hole. Ming says that Mei only has one chance, but clearly she doesn't, as Ming, her sisters, and Grandma Lee are all able to reseal their red pandas following the climax in the Sky Dome long after their own first blood moons. We don't really see it as a plot hole at all. Ming exaggerated the consequences to steer her daughter away from danger. She's a mom, and we're shown again and again that all she really wants is to keep Mei safe.
Making my own moves. 24/7, 365.
No matter how misguided her methods of doing so are. Is it really so unbelievable that a mother would beef up the consequences of an action in order to deter her daughter from doing something? Her own red panda brought only suffering upon her. Ming destroyed half of her family's temple. She scarred her mother, and she lost the same close relationship that she so cherishes with her daughter with her own mother. While Mei is able to create positive memories with her red panda, Ming remembers only darkness, and she doesn't want that for her daughter, so she lies. At the end of the film, Ming still chooses to separate from her red panda, but the difference is that she now accepts Mei's choice to embrace her own.
You are in big trouble, young lady.
Turning Red is a story about mothers, daughters, and overcoming generational trauma and coming into your own. It achieves this by telling the story of the Lee family's blessing, the red panda spirit. Maybe Grandma Lee sealed her red panda away to fit in, or maybe she separated from it because of the destructive potential it held. The Lee family came to Canada to give their future generations better opportunities, and now members of their family will have the chance to choose what to do with their lives and their red panda. Leave a comment down below about your thoughts on this theory, and what would you do with the red panda spirit? See ya in the next one.
Mei Mei's better than any of us at controlling the panda. She passed every trigger test, even the kitten box.